In a Zilla.
What'd you do all last summer again?
I told you, I spent it with my uncle in Alaska, hunting wolves.
Smogon players.
Did you shoot any?
Yes, like 50 of them. They kept trying to...
Ban my Pokemon.
What the heck would you do in a situation like that?
What kind of
Pokemon.
did you use?
A freaking...
Speed boost, double team, baton pass, Blaziken.
What do you think?
Hey guys, what's up? Inazilla back again today with another video. Today's video is going to be a little different though. As you can see from the title and the thumbnail, we're going to talk about Smogon. Why? Well, because they've influenced the competitive Pokemon community for a long time, but not in a good way. And they've been getting worse and worse for years now. So today we're going to talk about how they've fallen hard. So get your butt hurt ready. This video is going to be fun. Let's go. So this video was inspired by a random guy who seems to be under the influence of Smogon. He posted a comment in my comment section of the Swampert moveset guide video, stating that Swampert is actually a really good Pokemon because of its access to Stealth Rock and now Flip Turn. Its solid stats and typing make it a solid spot for a bulky Stealth Rocker and Pivoter in OU. My reaction to this comment wasn't exactly the most professional, and I apologize for that, but I haven't forgotten this and I probably won't anytime soon. The fact of the matter is, though, that Smogon OU is a pretend meta made by fans who think that they know more about Pokemon than the Pokemon Company and Game Freak. So, even if it is good at setting rocks and pivoting, does that matter so much in a competitive environment? Is setting Stealth Rocks really that great? Yeah, having chip damage and breaking sturdy and focus ashes is nice, but just blandly tossing out rocks gives your opponent a huge opportunity to set up on you. Be it with stat boost or a substitute or both. Landorus T can do that too, but with Intimidate, an actual usable ability. So, I still don't see how Swampert is all that good. Anyways, let's dive into the video. Let's go back, way back. Back to when I first learned about competitive Pokemon. I've always been a Pokemon fan, but I didn't get my own personal computer until after I graduated high school in 2010. Gen 5 had come out and I was playing the crap out of White version, and I came across the battle spot. Got interested in it. I started looking up strategies and stuff to win on the internet. I didn't know what Natures did, I had no idea about EVs and IVs. Then I came across Shofu and other YouTubers like RU Brown XP and Yellow Swallow playing Smogon on, well, YouTube. I quickly lost interest in Battlespot and got into Smogon. I started the YouTube channel myself as I was learning, and I was learning quick. I did that for a little while but ended up quitting the tube. My old channel's name was Johto Gold, by the way, if you feel like looking it up. Back then I hacked all my Pokemon into my game through Pokegen and the GTS. Since then, I've gotten into obtaining my Pokemon legitimately though. Thanks Gen 6. Anyways, back then Smogon seemed pretty cool. It was my stepping stone into the competitive Pokemon. I learned about all the basics from Smogon. But there was issues. Issues I didn't really notice back then, but issues nonetheless. Notably, Blaziken and Garchomp were banned, and there were nonsensical clauses. It made sense to me back then because I learned competitive Pokemon through their system. Back then I was running a really successful Hail team that had a Snowcloak Frostlass on it. Then they decided out of the blue that I can't use Frostlass anymore because they banned abilities that quote-unquote abuse evasion. Garchomp became legal to use at that time. But hey, tell me what's better. A gimmick Hail team with a little Snowcloak evasion, or a super heavy hitting wall breaker with barely any counters? So they took my Frostlass away from me, and the team fell apart because of that. Even so, I continued playing Smogon until the end of the 5th generation, though begrudgingly. Then, at the dawn of the 6th generation, out of the shadows arose an infamous YouTuber, Verilicify. He is exactly what the competitive Pokemon community needed, honestly. He started pointing out all the flaws in their system. He publicly debunked their silly clauses. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with everything this dude says, and don't approve of his ways all the time. Like, He thinks Gen 8 doubles is bad, but it's the best doubles has ever been. But he did publicly voice things that I've been thinking in my head for a long time. His opinions and ways of putting them out have gained him a lot of haters, but still, Smogon's flaws had been exposed, and this needed to happen. Let's go after these issues now. Evasion. Alright, evasion. Not gonna lie, a ban like this could actually make sense under the right circumstances. If we were talking about the earlier generations, then yes, an evasion clause could make sense. But Gen 6 nerfed evasion hard. Here's a list of things that help nerf evasion in Gen 6. Keen Eye. This ability now ignores all evasion boosts. It's not useless anymore. Roar and Whirlwind. Evasion can be phased. Aegislash could learn Sacred Sword. Just like Chip Away, it ignores evasion boosts. Moves like Dragon Rush, Steamroller, Stomp, Body Slam, and Phantom Force hit minimized pokes for double the damage. They also always hit minimized pokes. Now some of those moves aren't the most usable, but Body Slam is very usable. Dragon Rush, Phantom Force, those are good moves too. Toxic on Poison Pokemon has infinite accuracy. You're always going to land Toxic on a minimized Pokemon. Unaware Fable exists, and because of its newly found Fairy typing, it's actually viable to use. There you go. So, why did Smogon keep the evasion clause? Not for any competitive reasons, but to keep the old boy veterans happy that they didn't have to learn more about the game. Sleep clause. Gen 6 also removed any need for a sleep clause. The sleep clause is a clause that allows you to inflict sleep on only one of your opponent's Pokemon. It was debatable whether a sleep clause was ever necessary in the first place, because the only viable sleep move was Spore. Or you could try to rely on bad accuracy Sleep Powder, but Gen 6 made it so grass types are completely immune to powder moves, two of which being Spore and Sleep Powder. Stick a grass type on your team and you have a perfect switch in for sleeping moves. Problem solved. Overcoat also exists. So again, there's no longer a need for sleep clauses in 6v6, if there was ever a need in the first place. Legacy moves and the approval of hacking. Alright, here's a major issue with Smogon that nobody ever seems to want to address. In Smogon's format, you're allowed to use Pokemon from older generations, meaning you can have moves that some Pokemon no longer get, like knockoff Landorus, or the infamous Wish, Chansey, and Blissey. To get a Chansey with Wish, you need to time travel back to late 2004 or early 2005 and go to the New York City Pokemon Center store. How many Smogon players have done that? None. You can't time travel. How many legit Wish Chanseys are there out there then? Next to none. So, it's next to impossible to obtain a legit Wish Chansey. But Smogon players seem to have perfect IV ones with beneficial natures. Sure, you could soft reset for a good nature, but the odds of getting a perfect competitive Pokemon in those old games is 1 in 1,73,742,1,824. That's pretty much 1 in a billion. It's worse than 1 in a billion. Sure, you can patch up bad natures and IVs with mints and hyper training now, but you couldn't do that before Gen 7. And this has been a thing far before Gen 7 came out. This brings up another issue. How do so many people obtain impossible to obtain Pokemon? Well, hacking. That's the only way to get a Chansey like this, so essentially Smogon allows hacking. Not only do they allow it, but they encourage it. I would have so much more respect for Smogon if they updated their ancient rules to only allow movesets legal for the current generation. They also allow for very hard to obtain mythical Pokemon. Mythicals and other broken trash allowed. Like previously mentioned, Wish Chansey, mythical Pokemon are generally difficult to obtain. Sure, Game Freak gave them away for a few years ago, but what about players who started playing after that? How is it fair that some people can use these exclusive Pokemon and some can't? Well, it's not. Again, this is a problem that comes down to hacking. You need to hack your game to be able to thoroughly compete against other Smogon players. There's one problem with Mythicals, here's another. Some of them aren't very balanced. Mew can learn every TM and TR in the game, but you're going to get special attack boost every time something on the field faints. Sure, this is more broken in doubles, but it's still a problem. You basically get rewarded if your teammate Pokemon faint. Manaphy can abuse its solid bulk to tail glow and then sweep really easily. Have I said enough? I think I have. These Pokemon don't belong in the game, at least at a competitive level. At one point they even allowed Black Kyurem into their format. Like really? You ban stuff like Aegislash and Greninja but allow a busted legendary like Black Kyurem? Lamau, is that still allowed? I don't know. Other ridiculously stupid rules. There's other nonsensical things they have in place, such as a Baton Pass clause. You literally can't use Baton Pass if you're playing Smogon. Like really? Have they never heard of phasing moves like Whirlwind or Roar? Unaware blocks all stat boosting. There are a number of ways to stop gimmick Baton Pass teams. You can't have Moody Pokemon? Okay, so the only decent Pokemon with Moody is Glalie this generation, and has bad coverage and no good base stats. And if you're gonna update to actual legacy rules, it can't abuse Toxic. Just another reason to not let any legacy Pokemon into any competitive format. Arena Trap and Shadow Tag too? Why? Dugtrio is the only good Arena Trapper and it's not even that good. A half decent speed stat and bad everything else. If you're having problems with a very uncommon and bad Pokemon like Dugtrio, stick a Shucca Berry on your Pokemon and then boom, the Dugtrio didn't kill you and it died instead to a neutral hit because it has no defense stats. There, you win. Shadow Tag? What's good that has Shadow Tag? Gothitelle? Nice. You let a subpar Pokemon come in on your stanky tank Pokemon and you let it trick you a choice item and then you let it set up. Cool. If you let it do that, you deserve to lose. I'm always an advocate for Unaware Clefable anyways. Don't always run it, but when I do, it usually does me good. The one-hit KO move clause? Why? Relying on one-hit KO moves is no better than relying on status chances like moves from moves like Scald, Discharge, Poison Jab, or Lava Plume. You want to take luck out of the game? Then ban moves to secondary effects and bad accuracy too. It's the exact same thing. The ban happy mentality. Ever since Gen 6 dropped and Mega Evolution became a thing, they've been so happy to just ban Pokemon when they can't figure out a way to handle it. Mega Lucario, Mega Kangaskhan, Aegislash, Greninja, just to name a few, weren't allowed in Smogon throughout Gen 6. Mega Lucario? Meh. It was a strong Pokemon with a great ability and not a lot of counters, except like the ever so common Landorus T. Ice Punch? Okay, that's not affected by adaptability, problem solved. Kangaskhan, Lamau, anything with Rocky Helmet is a great counter to Mega Kangaskhan, especially Ferrothorn. King almost loses half its health when it attacks an incoming Ferrothorn. Aegislash is slow and has a gimmick ability that anybody with a brain can play around. There's a reason it's not of high use anymore, and it's because it's not all that good. Greninja? When Smogon banned our Ninja Frog friend, their logic behind it was not logical at all. They claimed it could run several moves all in the same moveset to make it the perfect attacker. Problem is you can only have 4 moves, so no, it isn't the perfect Pokemon with perfect coverage. I didn't mention Mega Mawile, but they banned that too because they don't know how to use substitute Pokemon and or Encore or Will-O-Wisp or Intimidate. Now though, Dracovish is banned again because they don't understand Rocky Helmet Ferrothorn or anything with Water Absorber Storm Drain. Also, even with a Scarf, Dracovish is slow, so again, good, not broken. It ain't no Black Kyurem. Landorus Incarnate is banned? Why? Middling speed stat and being weak to ice isn't a good thing. Sure, it can hit hard, but it's supposed to hit hard by sheer force. Ever heard of Assault Vest anything? GG Lando, you just lost. Naganadel? Yeah, it's strong and it makes for a great Dynamaxer. But at 73 and all its defenses, it ain't taking strong hits either. And you can't Dynamax anyways because no logic in Smogon. Last but not least, Galarian Darmanitan. Funny thing about that is, while strong, it fails to 2-hit KO full defensive Powdon if Scarfed. It can only use one move because its ability basically choice locks it. If banded, its unreliable speed stat will choke you, and its hidden ability limits its damage output and exposes its bad defensive typing. Need I go on? The quote-unquote democratic right to vote on balance. The way the community comes to vote on whether a Pokemon is broken or not comes to the choice of a select few basement-dwelling showdown players, and not the community as a whole. You need to spend a ridiculous amount of time laddering up their phony meta to even have a say. So even if you're very familiar with the meta and you know your ins and outs of it all, but you don't have time to spend playing pretend Pokemon game, you can't vote. That's so dumb. Over-centralizing? Sometimes Smogon bans Pokemon not because they're too good, but because they're quote-unquote over-centralizing. My phone where I'm typing out the script doesn't even understand that as a word, but here we are. Alright, over-centralizing. Sometimes a Pokemon gets disallowed because it's too popular. Okay, what about Landorus T, huh? It's always been everywhere, but it's not banned. What about Stealth Rock? Stealth Rock is literally on every team because it breaks sashes and sturdy, neuters stuff like Moltres and Volcarona, and so every team needs a way to eliminate Stealth Rock too, by defog or rapid spin or court change now. Does that not sound over-centralizing? Why, yes it does! And despite my disdain for banning things and creating such a casual format, I think a 6v6 format without rocks could be fun. But why don't they ban Stealth Rocks? Because they're used to it and they don't want to adapt to different Pokemon being good. If they did, they'd probably end up banning Volcarona because they don't know how to put a half-decent rock type on their teams. Now we're in the 8th generation. Right at the beginning of the generation, they had announced that they had banned the very thing that defines Gen 8. Dynamax. To me, that was their last straw. Even though I didn't like Smogon much, I still dabbled in it here and there in Gen 6 and 7. I'm a competitive Pokemon YouTuber, and I haven't played a single match of Smogon rules this whole time. That means something! That and the 20-minute timer that Game Freak put into the game didn't help either. But you know what? With Dynamax, that 20-minute timer wouldn't be nearly as much of an issue. But hey, they don't seem to enjoy listening to reason. Earlier I mentioned that the Sleep Clause and Evasion Clause weren't even necessary anymore in Gen 6, but now even more so. With Dynamax you can completely ignore both those things. Dynamax Pokemon can set up electric or misty terrain, preventing your opponent Pokemon from spamming Sleep. That along with Gen 6 buff to grass types being immune to powder moves, and Overcoat and Safety Goggles and Lum and Chesto Berries existing, and Evasion is stomped out by Dynamax too. If you let your Pokemon set up on you though, you probably deserve to lose, much of like if your opponent set up a couple Dragon Dances and swept. Quite frankly, we'd be better off with a 6v6 format that just used ranked stadium rules. I can't believe we're in the 8th generation and this still doesn't exist. I guess that's it for this video though. What's your opinion? Do you agree with me? Are you butthurt because of my experience-based opinions? Let me know in the comment section below. Stay safe everyone, and have a great day.